I'm Brent Tonsoni, and you are listening to Sports Talk with Tonsoni. Watching and talking sports is often something we do with our families or our closest friends. I can remember many times when my late father, Norm Tonsoni, and I talked sports. Well, my father left a legacy of sports with me, and I have attempted to pass this on to my own boys. Tonight, my youngest son, Brent Tonsoni, joins me to discuss family traditions as they apply to the sports world. Welcome, Brent. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, there's no doubt that our family is sports oriented. We spend quite a bit of time participating, watching, and talking sports. It all started at an early age for both of my boys when I was a head boys basketball coach at Northfield High School. Brent, explain a little bit about that experience as a young child and having your dad as a head coach.
It was an interesting but fun experience, I would say. I mainly remember, I don't really remember the Northfield days that much because of how young I was. I really remember when you were the coach at Delphi. But I remember how awesome I thought it was that I was an elementary student being a part of a varsity basketball team. Not many people, I think, can say that they did that. And I just love that your players and your team always accepted me like I was a part of the team. I would always ride the bus to every road game. And I remember I always had my earphones in, like getting pumped up for the games. And here I am, just like a third or fourth grader, getting pumped up for your varsity basketball games. But then I also ran out with the team. I was always in the back, and I always had an extra ball for the guys after they did their pregame routine. If they needed another ball, I would always throw them a ball. And I remember I probably was way more upset when we lost than some of your players, maybe even more upset than you were after some of our losses. And it really took a toll on me, but I loved being a part of it. And I think that's why I loved, that was the start of me wanting to stay in the game of basketball and being a manager at Indiana State and wanting to be a part of basketball programs. It all started at that young age.
Well, it is a big part of my early coaching. I always wanted to remember the foundation, and that is mom, Amy Tonsoni, and the two boys. And by having you and Brandon around on the bus trips, and it was awesome to see the team run out and get ready to play. But then the two guys, more so at Northfield, like you said, you don't remember that, but then at Delphi, being in the locker room and so forth was a big part of having you there. Mom's probably listening, but are there any stories that you remember from the back of the bus from, Richie? May he rest in peace. We lost Richie Sherman, one of my former players, but that was one of your guys. And then Matt Brown. Are there any lessons that you remember from the back of the bus that you can share on a public forum?
There's probably too many lessons that I learned, especially that I can remember from Matt Brown in the back of the bus, especially after wins when everybody was hyped up. And I probably learned a lot of lessons that at that time mom would really not have been happy to know that I was learning these lessons at such a young age. And I honestly think I do know some of the lessons that I learned, but since we are in a public forum, I really think there is absolutely nothing I can share, especially from Matt Brown.
We'll have to tag Matt later for him to listen to the show. Matt's now graduated college, is working in the Indianapolis area and doing a great job. So I'm glad you survived Matt Brown's expertise. So then another thing that we started in the family is a Monday night football tradition where we would watch the introduction and have certain activities, and we rarely missed a Monday night family tradition in about 10 to 12 years. And only as you guys got a little busier in high school did this tradition end. But talk and explain what we did on Monday nights and what you thought about that.
Monday night, I don't really remember how this started. If it was you, if it was Brandon, if it was me, I don't remember that side of it. But every Monday night, when there was Monday night football throughout the football season, we would always wait for the introduction, the song. There always used to be, and there still is, a song right before Monday night football. We would always, at a young age, with you and mom, just dance to the song and all these stupid dances or whatever to the Monday night football song. And then we would always go out back.
Hank Williams.
Yep, Hank
Sorry to interrupt,
Williams.
but it was Hank Williams. Are you ready for some football? And then we would all just do a crazy dance while that song was going on. Okay, now
Yep.
you can continue.
And then as soon as that song, we would always miss the start of the game because we would always go out back right after the song, and we would always play our own version of Monday Night Football. It was always Brandon and me versus you when we were young. and we always had a good time. If I remember correctly, we always played to 5 touchdowns in our backyard. And then when we finished that, we would always come in, and Mom, while we were playing outside, would always make us chocolate milkshakes. And we'd have chocolate milkshake when we come inside, and then we'd watch the game together inside after that. And we would play in any condition. Obviously, during the start of the year, it was probably nice weather, but if there was a bunch of rain that night in Delphi, we would play. If there was snow late in the season, we would play. There would be absolutely nothing that would stop us from playing Monday Night Football. But like you mentioned, the tradition did stop once Brandon and I got into high school, got really busy with basketball and whatnot. And unfortunately, I think your knees took a toll or a little bit from playing all those Monday Night Footballs. So I think it was best that we kind of stopped that tradition. But it really is a fun memory.
It was 2-on-1 tackle football in the backyard in all kinds of weather. And I do think that my sore knees are due to you two boys always
Yep.
going, one would go low and one would go high. And then I'd have to try to realize how to fall without getting injured. But yeah, there were some battles there, and not everyone was. Sometimes people get mad when I won. Like I think my record was 2-78, I think, but the 2 wins always caused a little bit of trouble on way in for the milkshakes. But Brent, what I remember is there was a couple awesome bad weather. One, probably you're too young to remember, but we went out and it was muddy and rainy and just a downpour. And I think we have pictures of you guys and myself just covered head to toe in mud. And then a couple of the snow events out here in Delphi were fantastic, trying to trudge through the snow and freezing weather, and we still came into milkshakes. Some nights we needed probably hot chocolate, but that was something we when it first started. Before you were even around, Brandon was young, and we found ourselves in the mall on a Monday night, and so we ran to Sears and asked them to turn on Monday Night Football so Brandon and I could dance, and people were watching us. But when you have a tradition, uh, it must be met, and you must do it every time until you decide to change the tradition. And we weren't going to stop those Monday night episodes. So what happened was you guys got involved with basketball, and then all of a sudden I was worried about injuries because we really took that tackle football kind of seriously. All right, so let's go to our next tradition. We take a lot of Major League Baseball trips. A lot of times early on, it was to my team, the Cubs. And as you and Brandon developed into St. Louis Cardinal fans, we've taken some weekend trips to St. Louis and talk about a little bit. Sometimes we get there early and some of the things that happen on our Major League Baseball traditional trips.
Yeah, when I remember going to some Cubs games with you back in the day, and we would always go early to batting practice. And I remember one Cubs game specifically. I don't know if you will remember this, but I remember where we went early for batting practice, and I forget who the Cubs were playing, but we caught 2 home run balls in batting practice, and I thought that was very cool. And on the same day, we saw the Cubs pitcher and the Cubs catcher get into a fight in the dugout, same team getting in a fight in the dugout, and a fan right below us ran out onto the field and got arrested all in one game. And I remember thinking that was like the coolest baseball game I've ever been to. All
It
of
was
that
against
happened
the
in one day.
it was against the Atlanta Braves. We caught 2 balls in batting practice, home
Yep.
runs in the bleachers. We were sitting in the bleachers, and it was Carlos Zambrano and Michael Barrett, the catcher.
Yep.
And I hit you. I said, "Look, something's going on in the dugout."
Dugout.
And
Yep.
boy, it was
Exactly.
just a big melee in the dugout and on Sports Center and everything. When we got back home later, we saw all that. And yes, and a fan. I think didn't we go to a couple games in a row where fans ran on the field?
Yeah,
I think there was
we
one.
had a streak where it was like 3 games in a row where fans have run
Yeah.
on the field, and we started thinking that we were just like a curse. Whenever we go to a game, a fan is going to get arrested.
Now talk about this. Might have been Brandon. But what's the most famous home run ball in batting practice that we got? Who was that from? Do you remember?
Scott Rowland, wasn't it?
Yep.
St. Louis
We
Cardinals,
caught a
Scott
Scott
Rowland.
Rowland ball when he was playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, and you guys are all excited because you're a Cardinal fan. I cut my finger open on the catch.
Yep.
Remember, then we went later to St. Louis against Milwaukee, and I think it was the old stadium. I'm not sure if you remember this, but Mom and Brandon stayed back at the hotel, and you and I went early, and we got 2 baseballs straightaway center field in Old Bush Stadium on that trip.
Yep.
So
I also
share.
I,
Go ahead.
I also remember this was when I was a little bit older, not that old, but we went to Cincinnati for a Cardinals Reds game, and Kyle Loesch in batting practice just threw us a ball. And I forget who caught it, but one of us caught it, and I remember having a Kyle Loesch baseball as well.
Nothing's better than going to a major league game and getting a foul ball or a batting practice home run. The thrill of getting that, or even if someone tosses it up to you, it's just really cool. And down here in the man cave, we have several. We mark them and we write what the score was and the date and who might have hit the ball or thrown the ball. So a big
And
tradition is going to watch baseball games.
yep, and one other thing I was going to say, we just got back from our Cardinals trip. We went to 2 Cardinals games this weekend against the Reds, and we were talking about how cool it is for when we were younger to get a ball like that. And just in the game we were at yesterday, there was this fan that had a sign up that said, "It's my 7th birthday. Can I have a ball?" And Marcell Ozuna gave him a ball, and how excited that fan was. And it just is a really cool experience to see. Now that I'm older, I'm in college, but it is still cool to see young fans at the ballpark and how cool it was. And Marcell Ozuna probably made that kid's life yesterday. And I just think that is one of the coolest things ever.
So we'll go back to high school basketball now. And one of the traditions that we have is that you like to follow the high school basketball tournament and all of the brackets and explain the tradition from me to you each year. And it's still going on now, even though you're in college. What do we do with the high school tourney brackets?
Yeah, so I don't really remember when this started, but you always, when the bracket comes out for every single sectional, 1A through 4A, you always print out at school the very next day. Uh, you always print out the brackets for every single sectional, and you put them in a notebook or put them in a binder, and you always give them to me. And back in the day, now I think you just give me one of them and I just update them as they go along. We used to do where you got 2 brackets for each sectional, and I would always make my predictions of who I thought was going to win, and then I'd have another bracket for each of them for to update as they go along and see how close I was to being right. And kind of like the NCAA tournament brackets and stuff, I would just always predict who I thought was going to win. And we still do that today. I mean, I thought I never even really asked you. I think it was my freshman year of college. I never even really asked you if we were going to do it. And you came to Terre Haute for one of my basketball games my freshman year. And I went to the court to see you guys after the game, and you had the binder ready, and I was still really excited that you remembered to do that because I didn't even ask you if you were going to do it. You just did it and brought it to me, and it's still a really cool tradition that we do. And high school basketball is such a big thing in Indiana, and I love following along.
And also, we have a tradition, the state finals with Indiana basketball, right? We
Yep.
get a hotel room and explain some of your memories from going to the state finals.
Yeah, so every state finals for high school, we always get a hotel room. And that normally lines up to the same weekend as the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 for the NCAA tournament. And so we always go down to Indianapolis Friday. And there had been times where Indianapolis is hosting a Sweet 16, and we would actually get tickets and go to the Sweet 16 in Indianapolis. We've done that a few times. But if the Indianapolis isn't hosting or anything, we will just go to B Dubs or something and watch the Sweet 16. And a lot of times my cousin Elijah and Uncle Ross would come down too, and we'd all hang out at B Dubs watching NCAA tournament games. And then Saturday, we'll go to the games. We'll go to the early session, 1A at 10 o'clock and 2A right after, and then we'd have about a 4-hour break where we go back to the hotel, hang out, go to the food court in the mall, get some awesome food in the food court, and then we go to the 3A and 4A games, and then we just head home Sunday morning. And it's a fun tradition that we still have been doing to this day.
We like to stay at the Omni in Indianapolis, and a couple of times on those Sweet 16s, the NCAA teams have been staying at the Omni. One year it was Kansas, and so on the Friday night, get it when the team got ready to go play, the band was in the lobby, and this last time it was Kentucky, and sometimes you get to see Coach Kell and Coach Self in the lobby hanging out and talking to people, and that's kind of been a neat thing as well as the high school tournament. But we've always liked. I used to take our teams from Northfield to the state finals, and you and Mom would come down for the morning sessions while the whole team stayed for the entire day. And then once that ended, we just decided to keep that tradition from the team going with the family. and it's something that we like to do and see the final weekend of high school basketball and see who's crowned champions. So, staying with basketball, the NCAA tournament. We have a family competition with the brackets where the immediate family, my mom and her friend, and now Brandon's fiance, all join in the brackets and talk a little bit about our traditional NCAA bracket pool.
Yeah, we have our family and my grandma's in it, and now we keep adding as the family keeps getting added with Brandon's fiance and stuff, and obviously you, mom, me, and Brandon are in it, and we always call my grandma, and we always get her on the phone, and we can't stop. She always is talking trash. There's no stopping that, and we
Or
just
laughing.
or laughing. She can't stop laughing. I could probably hear her all the way up in my room if we were talking to her downstairs, but we always choose the teams and do like a normal bracket pool, and then we just see who wins. And a lot of the times, unfortunately, my grandma wins. I don't know if it's just luck or if she really does her research or doesn't know anything and she just goes with her gut. And sometimes you and I just overanalyze, and
How
it
frustrating is
costs
that?
us. It's I mean it frustrates me more because she'll never shut up about it. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I mean, like if she wins, sometimes like I don't know, some grandmas might just win and be happy that they won, but my grandma, she won't stop talking about it. So, and I'm so competitive that I always want to win, and I'm. It's like there's two people in our family pool I don't ever want to win now, and it's my grandma or Brand's fiance. Those are the two people I just can't stand if they win. Like I can stand if
And
mom wins. I can't stand if those two win.
we like Brandon's fiance though.
We love
Just
her,
not in the
but
bracket. Yeah, just
she
not in the
can't
brackets, right?
she can't win our brackets.
Okay, and then thanks to the wonderful print shop at Delphi Community Schools, what have we been able to do the last few years? And talk about how you and Brandon would kind of make a decision on how you use this bracket.
Well, the Delphi print shop always printed us out a huge bracket. That was our
Four by
update.
four.
Yep, that was our updating bracket. So as the games go along, we would write the scores and advance the teams as they go. And when Brandon and I were still in high school, we would always choose which side so it would be even. So he would have the left side and I would have the right side, or vice versa. And we would always look forward to our side's games going final so we could write down the final score and advance the teams. And, Brandon would always want to choose the one that IU was in. And because we grew up IU fans. And so he would always want to choose that side. And I didn't really care. So that's how we did it.
We have a 4x4 bracket printed out at the Delphi print shop for a small charge. And it's just been nice. And to talk about the sports family, Amy Tonsoni, my lovely wife, will allow us to hang that up in the living room, in the main room of our house. And we've done that for most of the years. And then just the last year or two, we've put it downstairs where we have my man cave, where in here, uh, we hang it up. But it's part of the family tradition, and part of the family tradition is not just father and son, but it also is with Amy, and she enjoys that part as well. And then talk about the NCAA tourney. Recently, the last few years, we've had the pleasure of having some technology around to allow us to watch a few games. Talk about our setup down here in the man cave.
Yeah, well, we have DirecTV, so we have the DirecTV Genie, I think it's called, and it allows us to be able to plug in the TV wherever we would like to plug in the TV. So during the NCAA tournament, we will bring 3 TVs down to your man cave, and we'll bring the living room recliner down to your man cave, and you'll be in your recliner, and I'll be in the living room recliner, all downstairs, and we will watch all the games on 3 different TVs, and we would choose normally the best game or the one we really want to watch on the main screen, and have 2 other ones muted on the side screens. But it's a lot of fun, and even I thought after high school that tradition with you and I was going to maybe end. Maybe I couldn't get home or whatnot for the NCAA tournament, and hopefully I don't get to come home in the next few years, because that obviously means the Indiana State Sycamores are probably still playing. The last few years we haven't been playing, so I've been able to come home and continue that tradition. And it's always a consolation prize. I like to tell people that, I still get to enjoy the NCAA tournament with you if my team's not playing. But I guess I'm kind of hoping that we are still playing. But it is a fun tradition that I've still been able to do once I've been in college too.
And we're talking with Brent Tonsoni, my son, who is an Indiana State basketball manager. We'll have to get a little correspondence out to Coach Lansing and make sure that they win that tournament or get selected for the NCAA tournament. Because as much as I love the tradition, I would love to break the tradition of watching the games together by watching you either live if I travel to see if I could go to your first round games, or maybe watch you on one of the three screens. But I'll probably put you on the main screen if Indiana State is
I'd
playing.
hope.
Yeah,
I'd hope I
because
wouldn't be muted.
You usually control what screen has everything, or at least are telling me what games to put on. So tonight, the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby is, and we're such a sports family that we even have a tradition with the Major League Home Run Derby. And explain that tradition.
Yeah, so every year, Mom, you, Brandon, and I, we always pick two players that are participating in the home run derby, and we have a little family wager about it. And it always makes watching the home run derby a little more interesting to have a few guys that we want to win, to have bragging rights, I guess, within the family. So what we do is we always tear pieces of paper, write my name, Brandon's name, your name, and Mom's name down, put in a hat, and we have. Normally it's Mom, because then Brandon doesn't think me and you are cheating with the selection. So no, he trusts Mom and he doesn't trust us. So normally it's Mom with their eyes closed will choose the names and choose who goes first, who goes second, who goes third, who goes fourth. But we do a snake pick, so the fourth pick will always get back-to-back picks and so on. And we did this yesterday, actually, on the way home from St. Louis, and Mom actually got the first pick, and I know you were a little disappointed because you wanted Kyle Schwarber, a fellow Hoosier and Chicago Cub player, but Mom chose Kyle Schwarber with the first pick. And it's really fun. It really is fun, though, to make watching the home run derby a little more interesting.
We're recording this Monday night for anyone who's listening after the home run derby, and it's the home run derby is about a half an hour away from starting, and our house will get a little bit loud with each ball that goes over the fence if our guy is hitting them, and so it brings a little bit of fun to the home run derby. And then our final conversation piece is probably our most important. And the kids are St. Louis Cardinal fans, Detroit Lion fans, a lot different than their dad. But the one thing that growing up that they were consistent was with being Indiana Hoosier fans. Now, Brent has taken a little bit of a timeout, and honorably so, because he's an Indiana State basketball manager, and his loyalty now rests with the Sycamores, and I'm so proud of him for doing that. And now he's going to have two universities for the rest of his life to root for. And I've been to a few basketball games, a great place at the Holman Center. So I'm really happy for Brent to have an additional place. But I also was very adamant that I at least get the boys to follow their dad on one team. And I'm glad that it's the Indiana Hoosiers. But we've gone tailgating. We've gone tailgating at football games mostly. We've gone tailgating for Midnight Madness, and we've gone tailgating for even baseball games now, and it's a big part of where we've been. We've been football to quite a few places: Michigan, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Iowa, Penn State, Wake Forest, Michigan State, Illinois, just to name a few. And we continue to look forward to traveling every once in a while, but mostly at home games once Brent gets done with his obligation at Indiana State. But talk a little bit about how we tailgate, Brent.
Well, the one word that comes to mind when I think of you and I tailgating is early. There's no getting there 3 hours before kickoff. You know, I'm just mad when it's a noon start, we only get 6 hours to tailgate. You know, I love the 8 o'clock starts where we're there 8 a.m. and if it's an 8 o'clock start, we are there at 8 a.m. tailgating, and it might look like we're the only ones that are going to show up for a while because we are the ones that are crazy enough to show up that early. But we get there early, we set up, we like to have our spot. And especially when the bigger teams come into town, like a Michigan or an Ohio State, we don't want any opposing teams get in our spot. And that's the main thing. So we always have to get there early. Sometimes, even if it's the Ohio State Buckeyes, we will go and sleep in our van and tailgate Friday night. And we just love being there early. We love having good foods. we've started a new tradition where we cook a food that is that is famous at the place that we are playing. So if we're playing Wake Forest, we will do a food that is close to where Wake Forest University is. That is kind of the famous food, and it really adds to the tradition and the tailgating. And we love going on road trips. I don't go to road trips that much right now since I am, like Dad said, working with the Indiana State basketball program. But when I was in high school, we always would go and knock some Big Ten stadiums off of our bucket list. And even we went to Wake Forest, which was cool. Penn State was phenomenal stadium to watch a game. The Big House is always one of my favorites to watch a game. And to be able to share those experiences and go to all those football stadiums is really cool. And there's still, we keep adding teams to the Big Ten though. So I was only, I think, 2 stadiums away, but then we added Rutgers and Maryland, so I still have to get those off my bucket list at some point. So um, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy tailgating a lot.
What's your favorite thing about tailgating?
Honestly, the relationships. I think the tailgating is fun, but the people I've met because you got to be friends with them. I mean, it might sound silly, but we call them the tailgate family because we don't see them that often, but we do see them on Saturdays in Bloomington, Indiana. And we've gotten so close to them that when I was in high school and Brandon was in high school, they would come up to our basketball games and they would support us at our basketball games. But if we didn't tailgate on Saturdays in Bloomington, Indiana, we would have never even known who these people were. And now I consider them literally closest thing to me than my actual family is. Shout out to Tim, shout out to Emily and Brian, and all those other awesome people that we've met along the way. And that's what I think my favorite part is because we don't see them that often, but I know I want to get to Saturday so bad, so I get to see them every Saturday, and it's a really cool thing.
It has been a lot of fun over the years, and Brent is the reason that we're going even earlier. I used to be a 3 to 4 hour tailgate guy, and then Brent fell in love with tailgating, and so now we're a 6 to 8 hours before kickoff is our time of arrival, and we've had to get to know some security guards and maybe sneak around some security guards or be first in line for when the gates do open. Because we like to go early, and Brent, I really appreciate what you said about relationships. It's a good time to sit around and talk to people and meet people, and even the people who have walked by and joined our tailgate once or twice, just as friends. Uh, those are memories that we'll have for a long time. So once again, I'm talking with Brent Tonsoni, my son, about family traditions, and we've shared quite a few of the sports traditions that we do as a family. What does having a sports family with a bunch of traditions, what does that mean to you as a 20-year-old person?
Uh, it means a lot because I mean, some people, everybody has their own niche. If you're not a sports person, there's nothing wrong with that. You have your own thing with your families, you know. And so I'm not trying to say that sports is the only way to go because it's not. But sports has been a big part of my life, and I've grown up a sports fan thanks to you and thanks to an awesome mom who has been okay with us following our sports teams and everything. And it's a lot of fun to be able to share something with you, share something with Brandon, share something with family. We're a sports family, and I love it, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Even though we have a lot of disagreements in teams, and you back in the day when the Cardinals were the powerhouse in NL Central, you always got mad when I would cheer when the Cardinals did something good against your Cubs. But I wouldn't want to not be in a sports family, and that's the main thing.
Well, hopefully, this has provided a little bit of insight into the Tonsoni family. We are a sports family. We are a family of tradition, and I think that having traditions, whether it be sports or be some other type of tradition, really binds the family together. And what Amy and I are noticing as our young men are graduating and leaving the home, that these traditions still bind them to us, and that makes us very happy. And Brent, we appreciate you taking the time to discuss that with us today. Uh, you can find Brent at on Twitter at B_rent05. He's an interesting follow. Give him a follow. If you're in the Terre Haute area, please let him know and go see a Indiana State basketball game. They're a good program, up and coming program. And I salute Brent and his work with the the Indiana State team. This is
I got one more thing to add, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Follow at In-State Managers on Twitter as well. At INDST Managers. We need more followers, and we're going to be more fun follow. Manager games are coming up. I know Coach Lansing has given us a lot of grief for not winning as many games, and we're going to try to get a lot more wins next year. So follow at In-State Managers on Twitter as well.
Everything Brent dives into, he gives 100%. And I hope that it's been because Amy and I have raised them with traditions and meeting expectations and being there repeatedly. So we're very proud of everything. This has been this week's edition of Sports Talk with Tonsoni. Please look us up on Twitter. Our website is going to be up and running once I get some students again in August, a student-based publication online. But follow us at Sports Tons on Twitter. Give us some suggestions of topics that you would like to listen to. And we'll see you next week.